Hello once again, BC Calculus students. Sorry this video is a little bit late. Today's been kind of a crazy day, but fortunately the assignment's not due until Sunday night anyway, so you do have time to get this taken care of. So we are looking at this is the scoring video for 2019's free response, numbers 4 through 6. So let's go ahead and let's take a look here at how to score this. This is one that I actually scored. So if you have any questions about subtle things on this, I can probably tell you exactly whether or not you would get credit for it or not. So let's look at number 4. So number 4, first, part A. By the way, this was both an AB and a BC question. Part A is worth 2 points. So you get 1 point for correctly getting the derivative with v with respect to t, getting that it's pi dh dt. So pretty straightforward if you get that derivative, and then if you actually plug in correctly h of 4 into that and get the answer, then you get the which is the negative pi over 5, then you get the second point. That one was pretty straightforward. Part B. This one, there were a number of ways that students got into trouble on this. It's worth 3 points. So your first point was taking the correct second derivative here and getting the derivative with respect to h was this negative 1 over 10 radical h. And then when you took the derivative of that, you would get the negative 1 over 20 radical h. So if you took the correct derivative with respect to h and got this, that got you 1 point. Then if you took the correct derivative with respect to t, which would get you this with your factor of dh dt in there. And finally, your answer with its explanation, when you did this, you would plug in and get that's 1 over 200, which is bigger than 0. Therefore, the height must be increasing. And notice it's the rate of change of the height is increasing. And this is where you had to be specific. If you said the height is increasing, that's not true. It's the rate of the change of the height. Because what we see is that actually the height at that time is decreasing, I believe. But the rate of change of the height is increasing at the time when the water is 3 feet. There are a number of things I can remember some students had everything done perfectly and accidentally in their notations, instead of putting d squared h over dt squared, they put the squared after the h. That cost them 1 point. They could only get 2 out of 3 if they did that. But they could still get 2 out of 3. Most notation type mistakes just come off the answer and they lose the answer point in that kind of situation there. Anyway, that's that one there. So that's 3 points. Part C, this is the solving of the separable differential equation piece. It's only worth 4 points on this test. So 1 point for correctly separating the variables. So that's this step right here. Okay, so that would get you 1 point. If you anti-differentiate correctly, that's here. The 2 radical h equals the negative 1/10 t. Now the constant of integration, and you have to have to get the constant of integration point, you have to have a plus c, but you don't just have to have a plus c, you actually have to substitute in 5 for h and 0 for t and get the correct c, which is 2 radical 5. And then if you actually solve it correctly here for h and get to this, you would get it. I don't know how many students I saw go and square both of these and say that that was equal to a 1 over 400 t squared plus 5. It's not. Okay? You can't just square each term in a binomial. And so notice the typical information there. All right, let's go to question number 5. So question number 5 was one that I did not grade. So I don't know the real detailed ins and outs of this one. So first for part A, if you get the denominator of f prime, that's this thing here, that denominator gets you 1 point. If you get the correct derivative itself, so that includes numerator and denominator, you get a second point. And then if you solve for k correctly, you get your third point. Pretty straightforward on that. Part B, now we're doing a partial fraction decomposition. If you get the correct partial fraction decomposition, which means that you get to this expression right here that's inside the integral. If you get to that, you get 1 point. But you must get it and express it in that form right there. If you do the correct antiderivatives, which is this 1/6 natural log of the absolute value of x minus 4, and this 1/6 natural log of the absolute value of x plus 2. Those two antiderivatives give you another point. And then if you know to make sure there's a minus sign between them, to make sure that you have the correct limits of integration, and you can leave your answer like this, or you can simplify it down to that. But if you actually left it like that, it's still full credit. Okay, and that gets you 3 points total. Now for C, C was also worth 3 points. So this is going to be evaluating an improper integral, because if you so as you go ahead and you do this, you're going to integrate from 0 to 2. The problem here is that at a value, I believe it is of there's a value in there in the middle at 1. This is undefined. So you have to go and break it up into 2 separate integrals. So if you get this correctly, you get it broken up at 1 into the 2 separate integrals from the left and from the right. If you break it up like that, that gets you 1 point. If you then anti-differentiate each one of these correctly, that's this one and this one here, which is essentially the same antiderivative because it's the same function. So if you get that antiderivative correct, you get another point. And then if you go ahead and you evaluate it correct, plug in your antiderivative, evaluate the limit, and we see that you would have to say that because that limit is b goes to 1 from the left, does not exist, the integral diverges. So that would be the answer there. Okay, and you could have gone, yeah, that would be that part. Okay, let's go ahead, and you could have done from the right too. That would have worked as well. Okay, now let's go on to 6. 6 is our series one. I did grade this one as well. It is one that I did. So pretty straightforward. 2 points if you have the first 2 terms. First 2 terms are 3 minus 2x. So if you see 3 minus 2x, you get a point. The remaining terms, if you have the 3 halves x squared minus 23 over 12x cubed, you get another point. Okay, part B. So you get 1 point if you have 3 terms for e to the x. So if you look at your e to the x, here it is, right here. If you got 3 terms of that written out, you get a point. If you have 3 terms of e to the x times f of x, that's right here. You could have left it like this. That would still be acceptable. You could have actually left it like this. That gets you your second point. Actually, I'm trying to remember. I'd have to look at my notes again. I believe you actually had to get it into this form here because it had to be a polynomial. So it says to write a polynomial, so you could not leave it in either of these forms here. I'm remembering that again now that I'm thinking about it. Because it does want a polynomial, so it's got to be in this form here. So sorry, these 2 forms don't get you that second point. You've got to actually get it into that form because it asks for a polynomial. Okay, for part C, you get 1 point for your antiderivative. That was inside these brackets here. So that correct antiderivative gets you 1 point. And then if you evaluate correctly and get to the 97 over 48, you get another point. But this you could leave like that. Then finally for D, you get 1 point if you know that you have to use the 4th degree term for the Maclaurin series. So if you have the correct 4th degree term here and you know to take the 4th degree term, That gets you 1 point. You get 1 point if you use the first omitted term. So that's the, if you get the 5th degree term here when you evaluate, when you take the integral. And then if you actually get the correct error bound, which is the 9/20, then you get your 3rd point. So that would be what you would have there. Okay. Score it out of 9, score the whole thing out of 27, and then go ahead and take a picture and post that on in. Okay, we're getting closer to the AP test. Look, this weekend I'll probably be sending out information to kind of help you prepare for getting ready to take it. It is coming up a week from Tuesday, so I'll get some information out to you, and look for that this weekend. All right, until next week, bye.